Painting. It has always been something that's eluded me. So the first thing I decided to work on in 2024 is my painting skills. So for the last 2 weeks, I decided to sit down and practice my painting. Now let's see how this journey went. Day one, I jumped in with no plan, but I come with one promise to myself that no matter what, in the end of this journey, I would come back and redraw this portrait. Now let's follow along and see how that went. When we paint on a 2D surface, we must give the illusion of depth, and one way this is done is through determining values. So that is why I started to start off with the grayscale studies. Now when look at some artists draw, you can see how they start off in grayscale to first get the values of their drawing before they add paint on top. So I started off by practicing shading spheres and trying to paint subjects in grayscale. I was getting critiques and changing my approach to how we go about this. The next couple of days, I decided to try to do a little something different. So one thing I decided to do is I decided to try working with colors and implementing the new techniques that I learned. So rather than trying to shade with a soft brush, I try using a hard brush and blending it into it and just trying to identify values. With this, I had also done a still life. Day 7, I did something a little bit outside my comfort level and decided to draw a full figure. And this is where I ran into big realizations that I need to work on my fundamentals. I need to work on my figures, my line work, my proportion. Though drawing the figure was actually pretty challenging, I believe with everything I've learned and making it did not turn out too bad. Day 8 was another grayscale study. So one thing I did was try and use colors and then try and map it to grayscale. So these are examples of how I try and map the colors to grayscale. And from this, I tried a new figure, though this figure has many issues. Like one thing that I noticed is the gesture, the proportion, and I don't think I captured the whole thing well, which when I got critique was exactly what I thought. Seeing the gesture, seeing how I didn't bend this, and some overall critique. Another thing I had not done was fully render out the photo, as I didn't have time. On the final day, I decided to keep my promise and redraw the portrait. Now, one thing I noticed throughout this whole process of painting this portrait is that I did not spend enough time painting portraits or even learning how to paint portraits. As I was drawing this, I was like, my whole lesson, my whole journey kind of felt kind of scattered and not focused towards producing the best end result. Now, I did learn a bit about coloring and how to work with everything, but I wish I had spent more time on working with colors and values rather than focusing on purely just values, and a bit of both before jumping into my final product. Though there are more critiques I'll talk about at the end of the video. This is my arts improvement look back, so just see where I started and where I'm going. Now one thing I do have to say off straight off the bat is that in the first one, I drew it purely by hand, while the second one I used the original image to get the proportions right, as I tried using an isolation method, which is a method I learned throughout the process. So using the isolation method, the structure of the photo is much better. But even with that, I can see the improvement in the way I've used the colors. So I started off with the thing that started off good. Like I said, the better use of colors, better understanding of colors and the values they create. So right here, I just used like a pour. There's no direct to the lighting, but now it's like there's a lighting anti-come over here. Though I could have done something a bit here. It is a better step up than just this, and better rendering was another thing I said. Which Yeah, but the rendering is also something I want to improve on, and having a more wider variety of range of colors. Yes, this is what I would have done better rendering. Though I didn't have as much time as I would like, I believe the time I did have, I could have done with better rendering. For examples of one, so this was one with the good varieties of colors, different hues, and the rendering again is just top notch. Another one, good rendering, a dynamic pose. Just the variety of color in the cheek, just the red and the pinks, and just everything, and how everything kind of just plays in one harmony. Oh, here's the artist who drew the other one, and the first one should have the artist's name on it. And this one, though this one's a different art style, it is the exact, it just shows how the different colors come together to create harmony, and the different colors even used to create the values, or something I would like to demonstrate in my work in the future. I think I did well. The thing I did well was getting feedback from Discord and just watching other YouTubers and how they draw and trying to implement it to my own work. I see when I've done that is what led me to do the great amount of improvements, like I said. So like in the previous art, I believe I should work more on my fundamentals. As more of my fundamentals, so more of my line work and drawing. As during the process, just drawing a figure or just getting the proportions of the face was something that I struggled with. And like I did towards the end, isolation practice. And just stripping everything away and just focusing on pure coloring, I found if I had done that in the beginning, would have led to me understanding better rendering and better coloring and him more on the coloring aspects, as I believe a great amount of time was just done getting the proportions right, even though that was something I clearly need to work on. Now clarity is the direction. And like I said before, I wish I had more focus. Like I want to learn to get better at painting portraits rather than I just want to learn to get better. As throughout the whole process, I was kind of all over the place, and I wish I would have focused my attention on just painting colors to get the best results in painting a portrait. My final results. And with that, that concludes the end of the video. This is my 2-week process. I'm excited for the next journey in this saga.